Yes, good morning and welcome back. You're still watching Power Breakfast right here on Citizen TV. And this is when we take a look at the headlines of the dailies this morning. We're privileged to have Njogu Barua on my extreme left, MP for Gishugu constituency. Next to him we have Chris Wamalwa, MP Kiminini. And on my right we have Brian Weke, CEO, Institute for Education in Democracy. Good to have you back on this panel. It's been a while. Good morning, gentlemen. Now, quite a number of very interesting headlines, a lot of things happening this week. Presidential aspirants yesterday, by midnight, they had to present at least 48,000 signatures to support their bid for the presidency. But moving forward, the other big thing, and this is what is headlining on the front page of the Daily Nation, will they pass integrity test? Because vetting of nominees as presented by candidates, including the independents, has started. EACC has embarked on that process. They are vetting nominees on their integrity. But most of these people have questions on their heads, and they've actually listed six individuals who probably the issues that bedevil them have been declared publicly. Anne Waiguru, Evans Kidero, Hassan Joho, Amos Kimunya, Oscar Sudi, Gideon Mwiti. These are just some of them, but remember, all the 16,000 plus aspirants will have to undergo this vetting. But questions are being asked as well. Yesterday, the KNCHR went to the Supreme Court to seek an advisory on that process, including parameters to be used in effecting that particular vetting. Meaning that there's still a problem in as far as this Chapter 6 is concerned. Questions have also been asked because the EACC admits that even though they have to do this vetting, they cannot bar anyone from running for political office. The other big headline, Kalonzo issues Raila ultimatum. We'll be discussing that as well. But let's start off with this vetting. Of course, very many questions have been raised with regard to quite a number of politicians. Some of them we've seen have even been accused or even indicted by committees of parliament. These matters are public, but it appears like the EACC and the exercise it's currently engaging in could be an exercise in futility. EACC itself admits that there's nothing much they can do about it. Let's start with you, Brian Wickham. Do you agree that what EACC is doing currently could just be an exercise in futility?
I think, let's be very honest. When you talk about integrity, what do you mean by integrity? If you look at Chapter 6 of our Constitution, it is very clear on the threshold. But when Parliament created a law to implement Chapter 6 of the Constitution, they literally watered down that particular provision of the Constitution. Now, in the last election, which again was conducted under the 2010 Constitution, we cleared two suspects whose charges were confirmed in the International Criminal Court. It was not hearsay. It was there was a case, there was a charge, and the charges and the threshold if you look at the ICC is quite high. They don't just charge you. You have to undergo a certain process, and within that process they actually confirmed those particular charges. But guess what? These people are cleared to run. So this, I can tell you for a fact, is a PR exercise. Again, if you look at the Constitution, it says you are innocent until proven guilty.
And that in itself just waters down everything.
Absolutely. And it is any person who's a lawyer will tell you that that is a very serious principle of our Constitution. We are not those jurisdictions which say you're guilty until proven innocent. Our Constitution is very clear that you're innocent until proven guilty. So again, there is need for Parliament to set up a very clear threshold on issues to do with leadership and integrity, because if you read the law as it is as we speak, this will be a protracted battle. I can tell you for a fact it will not be easy to implement the so-called integrity test.
Yes, and even the requirement, the threshold has really been diluted, or rather we've really lowered the bar in as far as the integrity test is concerned, because if you reduce it to a conviction by a court of law, Some of these things that we get to hear people have done, some of them you may not necessarily get convicted by a court of law. And even if you do, once you appeal, that means there's nothing EACC can do about it. Do you think that was the right way to go about it, given that in other jurisdictions, if at all a question is raised with regard to your character, you simply step aside?
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. And the jurisdiction that you're mentioning, we've seen many people in power stepping down, maybe like in the US you've seen this happening, but this is a totally different jurisdiction. First and foremost, I want to say that these institutions are becoming busybodies. Whatever they are doing is an illegality. And I have raised this matter on the floor of the House when we are passing the regulations that were presented to presented by IBC, because nothing was there, and I made it very clear that whatever they are trying to come up with is an illegality. Because really, IBC, what should have done, should have brought the regulations which must be debated in Parliament, be passed for it to be implemented. And as Brian has clearly put it, in our Constitution, actually, you are innocent until proven guilty. And again, as provided for in the Bill of Rights, you must be given an opportunity to be heard, and you must exhaust all the appeal mechanisms. Once you finish that and you've been convicted, that's when you can say, hey, you are guilty. But in this case, whatever they are doing is an illegality, and a president has been set in this country. The president and the deputy, they were facing charges against humanities at the ICC, the highest court so far, but they were allowed to run. So when you do the comparison, you cannot come and be able to say that in this case now, looking at Sudi here, where he's being accused of forged, I don't know, academic certificate or whatever it is, and the matter is still in court. So it is an illegality.
Do you think that probably this over-legislation or some things that could be down to morality is the problem, that lawmakers decided to legislate up to that level, that they should have just left it? Because some of these people, even when you mention the United States, they're not convicted by law. It's simply because some people raise questions on your character. You just step aside. You do not need to be taken to court for the courts to actually convict you and say this person is guilty.
That's what I said. This is a totally different jurisdiction. What might be moral here. So we are talking about two totally different environments. Forging
an academic certificate even in Kenya is immoral.
Yeah, but the certificate has not been proven. It's still under the courts. So why don't we wait for Sudi to be convicted? Is then you can come up with this matter.
Yes.
So really, it is provided for in our Constitution under the Bill of Rights. Innocent until proven guilty. And you must exhaust all the appeal mechanisms.
Yes.
So the court has not convicted any here. So whatever EACC is doing, it is something that should have started a long time ago in consultation with the IBC, and should have come to Parliament in form of the regulations. And Parliament should have debated this. Any regulation to be implemented must be passed by Parliament. So whatever they are doing is an exercise in futility.
Well, the Supreme Court is
but though
we refused on the matter, a petition by KSHR seeking an advisory on how Chapter 6 of the Constitution can be implemented in terms of checking the leadership and integrity of our leaders. They will give an advisory. We can only wait for that. But Bwana Njogu Barua, when it comes to issues of morality, and because we should hold our leaders to the highest level of integrity, because we elect the best that we have. Yes, you as leaders, probably from wherever you come, you are the best of that particular society. We elect the best that we have, creme de la creme. Therefore, the questions that we ask must be seriously answered. If at all anyone raises doubts over your integrity, then you should not be in Parliament, even if you've not been taken to court. Don't you think?
I think yes and no. But before I get there, I would like to comment on the issue which has been mentioned and actually profiled very prominently by my two colleagues here about the president and his deputy, about when they ran in 2013, they had some issues with the International Criminal Court. It is clear to Kenyans that the case at the International Criminal Court was not put there by Kenyans. It was put there by, actually, they were inducted by foreign nations. So if these two gentlemen, Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto, had been taken to court through a Kenyan process, that could have been something else. So this is what they call international witch hunt. But I think Chris, you had your time, and I was very patient, my friend, and I respect you so much.
Yeah, but don't
so what I'm saying is that that's my opinion, and we are ready to give yours. So there is no point of us hanging on the issue which has already gone by. And after all, the same International Criminal Court found them innocent. Now they are free people. Secondly, on this gentleman and lady who are here, it is too late in the day to seek for an opinion. By the end of this week or the next week, 28th, we'll be giving their nomination papers.
Yes. So
I think that exercise should be going on, and I don't think they'll be bad for running elections. Finally, the other thing is election number 3 is that even the same issue of barring them from running election for offices, we might be creating some heroes within their own communities because they look as if they are victim of the situation. So the way it is now, you look at somebody called Waiganjo, who is actually in prison today.
yes.
And he has already been submitted his name for election. He's an MP, I think.
And he'll be cleared.
And he'll be cleared. He's already gone all the processes. He's in jail. So now here is a question of we are comparing somebody who is in jail, who has been cleared, with the people who are just suspects. These suspects cannot be barred from running elections because they have not been proven guilty as yet.
Yes.
But as you put it, the question clearly was on integrity.
Yes.
I think
because integrity, I don't think it can only be judged by a court of law.
I think there's a there's an issue of personal concerns.
Yes.
But also I support Chris on some issues like some institutions becoming busy bodies. You cannot trust what they are doing because they are doing things in terms of they are being vindictive. Even our own house, our own parliament, some of the issues being brought for debate at this particular time, I think they seem to be ill-motivated.
An example?
An example, without citing any political allegiance to anybody.
The main scandal.
There's an issue of NYS,
yes,
which was brought last week, debated for a few hours because it's absolutely difficult to get quorum now, discussed by a few people and put to question. There are other questions coming in which are going to victimize other people, and I think there are some serious issues which must be left.
I mean, that particular issue of NYS,
yes,
because it still has to do with what we are discussing now. Anne Waiguru is one of those faces on the front page of the Daily Nation today. When a committee of parliament,
an institution,
a huge institution, a serious institution of parliament, when a committee of parliament comes up with a report indicting someone or laying the blame squarely on their feet in as far as something is concerned, yes, that is a serious institution. This is the Kenyan parliament. Then you're still cleared to vie for office.
Maybe I say the issue is before Chris comes in, because I think the issue is that committee of parliament is actually part of the house. I mean, it's like the whole house, just that the whole house cannot be in committee. But the question I'm putting here is, the procedure in parliament is that once you do a report, it is tabled and discussed by the plenary.
Will we ever get to the level where once questions have been raised on your integrity,
I think I want to
by a serious institution like parliament that questions Brian Weke's integrity, parliament, the Kenyan parliament, that yes, you should be barred from office?
I think when I listen to Njogu Barua, Honorable, I get more and more confused. Now, if you look at our constitution, you know, a long time ago under the old constitution, you would say we are a dual list state, where we would ratify an international convention, then we had to domesticate it. But under the current constitution, we are a monist. And it is very clear if you look at, there's a provision of the constitution which says an international law that we have ratified automatically forms part of the laws of our country.
It's true.
Now, when my brother Njogu Barua says on national TV that is a different court, then it begs very serious questions. ICC, International Criminal Court, is such a serious institution at an international level that practices very high threshold. Now, once they have confirmed your charges, and I hear Njogu Barua misleading Kenyans that Uhuru Kenyatta and Ruto were set free by the ICC. They were not found to be not guilty. They just said it is unattainable to proceed with this matter in very simple language. But I'm coming back to the issues of integrity, which you've asked. Issues of leadership and integrity cannot be tied to cases in court, because cases in court are criminal matters.
Yes.
Are we together? Now, it is about values. It is about our value system. In other jurisdictions, Fred, I saw in South Korea, the Prime Minister misled the public when some ship capsized and said there were no children. It turned out that there were very few children, but just because of that, and that is South Korea, not any other jurisdiction, the Prime Minister resigned.
Yes.
And said, look here, I misled the public, I apologize, I have resigned. Now, until and unless we start thinking like that as Kenyans, where we look at integrity not as criminal issues.
Yes.
Integrity is about value system. Now, if a serious institution that is charged with the responsibility of oversight like Parliament, and a committee looks at pros and cons of a particular matter, and they say that you're not supposed to hold any public office, which other threshold do you need?
In Kenya, we still have to wait for it to be a criminal
You
matter.
still have to wait for it to go to court. Then you exhaust appeal systems, as my brother Honorable Amalio is saying. It is never about appeal systems. It is never about somebody being charged in court. It is about integrity.
Because the joke is that one time the devil will actually come to Kenya and vie for political office, and he'll be cleared. He will be on the ballot.
At this rate, actually the threshold is the devil.
Yes.
For you to be elected.
Because you cannot convict him in the court of law.
I think
in fact, though I don't want to maybe say something that maybe will go against some of the governors, but we've seen some of the governors being cleared, and people have been asking, how did this person, how was he cleared for this particular maybe gubernatorial position of some areas, the key cities, you know? And I don't want to mention names, but going back to the question is, and I'm very disappointed with the Honorable Barua, whom I respect so much, because when you read Article 2 of the Constitution, Article 6, on the supremacy of this Constitution, it says that any convention or a treaty that has been ratified by Parliament, by Kenya, which is ratified by Parliament, is part and parcel of the laws of Kenya. And when such a matter goes to court, the court normally uses the Constitution. So when Honorable Barua, Professor, whom I respect so much, comes and says that the President and his deputy, it was an international court, then surely, if a professor can say that, then you are really misleading the public.
Yes.
Because it's actually in Article 2 of the Constitution. Now, the issues of integrity, it is to do with the values, you know, the conviction. You know, you feel that I should have done like this. But in this country, which values are we talking about? We've seen even the head of the state, the deputy president, in many cases. Look at even the Mexico issue of maize. We are told the maize was coming from Mexico. Within a week, we are told it's in Mombasa. We are told it was not Mexico. That you said maize eco. You know, already we are seeing they are not leading by example. So the issues of integrity must be led by the leadership. Absolutely, it's a societal problem. You know, it is.
We have no.
We've seen even some people in some communities, when somebody maybe on the issues of corruption, when he goes home or whatever it is to the community, you're a hero. So really we need to look at the value system, the issues of the principles of governance, the core values. So that conviction is not there at all.
Because the perfect example I can think of from probably in the United States is was it John Edwards, who was running for president. Then it was discovered that he had an extramarital affair, and he had to drop out of the race.
Absolutely.
This is not. It is not criminal. He cannot be charged in a court of law.
Yeah.
He cannot be convicted. But in Kenya,
it's an issue of morals.
Would actually appears to elevate your status.
I think first of all I like to clear the misconception from my two respective colleagues, and I'm sorry to disappoint you because you are being disappointed for nothing. I didn't say that. I want to say that I actually understand that any international convention that is ratified by Kenya becomes part of the Kenyan laws. But what I said is this: Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto were not taken to ICC by Kenyans. As simple as that.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't. No, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. When, now let me finish this because I think these are charges have been put to my defense. Then you say when you talk about things like Mexico and Mexico, that is even a bigger joke, and you're misleading Kenyans. On integrity, the issue is I agree. It's about the value system. If I was personally accused of some issues, I would actually not fight for public office. But the issue is, even the people who elect us, they don't see these issues as being bad. In fact, some of them are celebrated.
So it is a societal problem.
It's a societal problem.
In Kenya, we do not have values.
We do have values, but
the threshold is
so low. And in fact, if we go with the mandate the community, because actually, let me say this, Fred, it is because most Kenyans have not gone, are living still below human dignity. We are still living below poverty level. When a poor person is exposed to some shillings, he or she will take it. Because of wherever it comes from. So if this nation, and I'm not talking about Jibin government because I know Chris is going to jump to, we have had 4 governments since independence. If this nation can actually ensure that every Kenyan lives above poverty level, these issues will not be there.
Okay. So we do accept that probably what EACC is engaging in right now for the rest of the month or so, even before the Supreme Court issues its advisory with regard to the petition by KNCHR, could be an exercise in futility.
Not could be. It is an exercise in futility.
Yes.
You know, Fred, we cannot legislate on value issues. And that's where we go wrong. We want to legislate on virtually everything. Today, having sex outside marriage is immoral.
Yes.
But you cannot write a law and say that having sex outside marriage is a criminal offense. Because it's 2 parties consenting. 2 adults of sound minds choosing to engage in that particular activity, and that is where we go wrong. And for me, we need as a society to start building our own value system. The answer can never be let us legislate on that. Let us legislate.
Let us leave it to Brian has touched on something very sensitive, and I don't think it will be nice for you to go without me commenting. Under the Marriage Act, there are different provisions of what kind of marriage you're in. So when he says that extramarital sex, you know, if you are a Christian where we prescribe to monogamy, it is not allowed. But if you are polygamist, yes,
you cannot be convicted in a court of law.
It is actually not a criminal offense. It is actually a source of divorce.
Yes.
When you look at the marriage,
it is a ground for divorce.
Absolutely.
But it cannot be used.
Yeah, absolutely. But now such a sensitive matter, so I just wanted to clarify.
It's about values and morality.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the question. We've left everything with regard to checking or vetting our candidates to the courts.
And that's why maybe Fred, when matters come to Parliament and when it touches on issues of morals, you find that many political parties do not have maybe a stand on this. But if it's something different, you know, there will be a lot of whipping. They say, as a Squad coalition, this is our stand. As a Jubilee coalition, this is our stand. But when it comes to matters of moral values, you know, things to do with like marriage and all that, you find that you leave it to the members of Parliament for their own issues of conviction. No, corruption is different. If corruption is a bit different, but the morals, when it comes to, let's say like things like marriage, for instance, there are so many bills that come to the floor of the House. Each party will come and say, this is our stand. But anything that touches on morals, you realize political parties will leave it to the members of Parliament themselves out of their own conviction. You know, so that's why what Brian has said, it is actually true. Maybe we need to see how the society is so that we can be able maybe to issues of morals, which you cannot measure. To operationalize that becomes actually very, very important.
And I think that's a problem, because this word integrity that even EACC is trying to vet in our leaders, what parameters are they using to measure that?
Absolutely. And I think the first person to talk about integrity is yourself. Before you go to the court, before you go to Parliament or any other institution, you as a person, or me as Honorable Njogu Barua, should be able to give myself a self-assessment. Have I behaved or acted in integrity? If I convince myself that what I did was not purely dignified, but can be redeemed, then maybe I can skip that opportunity for that public office, waiting for another day when I'll be cleared of those things. So if there is no self-consciousness, the courts will not help. The other issue I've mentioned, corruption, and Chris is trying to evade corruption. Corruption, the parties take position on corruption in Parliament based on who is being accused. If the person, let's say it as it is, Chris, this is a national TV. If the person who is being accused is aligned to court coalition, you see Jubilee might be very. I mean, that's a practical thing. I've been in parliament. I'm still in parliament.
It is both a criminal issue as well as a moral.
So I'm saying now, the Jubilee will be very active on that. If the person is aligned to Jubilee, then you can see the CORD coalition or other coalition that may exist. Will be very vocal on that issue, because even us in parliament, we use some of these opportunities for debate to settle our political scores and also to actually up our political significance in the society.
Okay. So as it is, EFCC is engaging in an exercise which we do not really understand the outcome.
On their own motion. They're doing it on their own motion.
Yes. Yeah. Because we do not even understand the parameters they're using to actually vet leaders with regard to their integrity. Yes, because they've left it to a piece of legislation and court processes, which may not necessarily be the way to go. Meanwhile, KNCHR has filed a petition before the Supreme Court seeking an advisory on how, on what parameters to be used in as far as vetting leaders with regard to Chapter 6 of the Constitution. Let's now take a break. When we return, we discuss this other headline on the front page of the Daily Nation. The feud between Kalonzo Musyoka and Senator Johnson Muthama is now continues to play out publicly. Kalonzo now has issued an ultimatum to NASA flag bearer Raila Odinga. We'll be looking at that after the break.